West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Here we go on a Tuesday, January 19. So good to see you today. Welcome to the program. It is the Bill Press Show. Looking at you here on Free Speech TV and, of course, worldwide on our video stream, Talker, youtube.com/Talker, TawkrTV. Yes, we continue to celebrate the release of 5 American prisoners from Iran, including Washington Post Bureau Chief Jason Rezaian, now reunited with their families. A great victory for diplomacy A real coup for President Obama and for two members of Congress who fought long and hard for their release, both friends of the program, Congressman Dan Kildee from Michigan and Congressman Jared Huffman from Marin County, California. By the way, this deal looks like it's good for everybody except BB. Remember old BB said it was a bad deal? Yeah, well, BB, you were dead wrong, and now the whole world knows it. Donald Trump, meanwhile, down at Liberty University yesterday, picking up almost the endorsement of Jerry Falwell Jr., and Donald Trump showing he doesn't know anything about the Bible by citing 2 Corinthians. If Donald Trump is a role model for Christian students, I'm an astronaut. Several African-American stars have announced they are going to boycott this year's Oscars because for the second year in a row, it's an all-white Oscar ceremony. No African-American star nominated for a leading role. And that just should not happen in the 21st century America. How could they make that same mistake second year in a row? And in Flint, Michigan, things are heating up. President Obama signing an emergency declaration to get them some more help. It is time for the Republican governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, to step down. He says this is his Katrina. Well, he blew it as bad as George Bush blew Katrina in New Orleans. Lots to talk about. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine,
Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The Iran nuclear deal, a great deal. Everybody says so except BB. Remember him? I haven't heard from him lately, have we? Yeah. BB, you were wrong. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is a Tuesday, January 19th. So good to see you today. Baby, it's cold outside, I'll tell you that, here in Washington, D.C. It's about 16 degrees, and we're probably a lot warmer than it is in the around the Great Lakes, the Chicago area, and other parts of the country. But this is cold enough for us, and one way to stay warm. Talk about the issues of the day. That'll heat you up. That's what we do every day for 3 hours here on the Bill Press Show. Starting out from our studio in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., it was great fun and very exciting yesterday to see our good friend Dan Kildee bringing his constituent home from captivity in Iran. He's been working on that a long time, has told us a lot about it. Amir Hekmati from, I think he's not from Flint, though. He's around that area. Peter, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Dan's district out in Michigan, and he's one of the 5 prisoners released. And Jason Rezaian from Mill Valley, California. Jared Huffman, congressman. My own congressman from California was there with him, helping release him. So there's a lot of good news, and we'll cover the good news and the bad news, as we always do. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you. 866-55-PRESS is how you do so. Get in line to Dr. Ray Rogers here. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading up our team.
Here we are.
Good morning.
Ray, aforementioned, here to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding rounding out the team as our videographer this morning. By the way, it is cold out there.
It's a little chilly out.
Yeah. And
don't tell Jamie that. Jamie's from Maine.
Oh,
it's not that cold.
He likes to remind us it's not that cold
Not that
outside,
cold.
according to him.
But, I was walking around yesterday. It's the wind chill that really gets
The wind will get you, man.
Takes your breath away.
We didn't really have that much of a wind chill in Maine. I mean, it's the cities. It's different. So I will give you that. I'll give you that.
This is a city.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's different. It's different.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Different cold.
Different cold. Right, I got it. Did you hear the big news that Donald Trump got a huge endorsement? Donald Trump got a huge endorsement. Well, yes, he just about got the endorsement yesterday of Jerry Falwell Jr.
Yeah.
But that wasn't as big as getting the endorsement of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
No, yes, Jimmy
I
Kimmel.
had no idea.
Jimmy Kimmel with the latest version of This is not fair to do this always in L.A. because it just makes the people in Hollywood
I know, right?
look really, really dumb. The latest version of Live Witness News.
Do you think Martin Luther King endorsing Donald Trump was a reaction to Malcolm X endorsing Hillary Clinton?
Well, Malcolm X and Hillary Clinton, they from Martha's Vineyard. They both, Malcolm X has a home on Martha's Vineyard. So they
Water ski
vacation
together?
with
Water
them.
ski together?
Yeah, they vacation. They golf together when they were on Martha's Vineyard.
What?
Yes, my brother lives on Martha's Vineyard.
You ever see Malcolm X out there with them, walking around?
I have never seen it. My brother has.
Her brother's seen Malcolm X walking around Martha's Vineyard. Water skiing with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, yeah, man. That makes perfect sense. God.
Who's she talking
Malcolm
about?
X out there on a sailboat, windsurfing.
Is she talking about Vernon Jordan?
I don't know who she's talking. I mean, I don't know what in the world she's possibly thinking.
How can I find people?
Either her brother is lying to her, or she's awfully gullible. I don't know what's going on.
Man, she's so dumb. At any rate, all right. Lots going on today. What a great segment he's got. Whoever invented that. You should get a bonus.
Yeah.
That little segment that he does.
That's good.
All right. We've got lots going on today and got lots of good help. Of course, it's Tuesday, so you will see Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, Igor Volsky from Think Progress, and very excited to have John Nichols from The Nation back. Just three of our several guests this morning. Good reason for staying tuned for all 3 hours. And how about, once again, Lily White Oscar ceremony. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, I'll give the NBA a lot of credit. When it's their time to shine, they put on a hell of a show. Christmas Day, they always line up a bunch of good basketball games. And Martin Luther King Day, they also do the same thing. They set up a whole day of basketball with some really good teams playing each other. Just a couple of scores from around the league. The Bulls beat the Pistons 111-101. The Mavericks beat the Celtics in overtime 118-113. The Hawks beat the Magic 98-91. And we saw a rematch between the Cavaliers and the Warriors. Remember, they took each other on in the finals last year. This one was never close. The Warriors won that game 132-98. Not even close.
But
of
they
course,
had lost 2 games coming into this one, right?
They had.
Yeah.
They had. I'd say they had something to prove. And the late game was the Houston Rockets and the LA Clippers. That one went to overtime where the Clippers won 140-132. I just love how the NBA does that because they really make sure they maximize the best teams playing each other. All right, so which state in America has the most virgins? There's a new study by OkCupid.
I got it.
The dating site. And they took a look, and they put, you have to give this information when you sign up to OkCupid. So
this has got to be obvious. It's got to be Utah.
People
Utah
lie.
is
People
your
lie.
guess, Bill?
Utah's a good guess. I would say North Dakota. It's just
It's another good one.
It's too damn
isolated.
cold.
Yeah.
All right, Utah is a very good guess. It is number 1.
All right.
19.78% of sexually active adults.
If you
They
believe
could be
them.
lying. Yeah.
They're lying.
Yeah.
If you were going to lie,
Mormons lie.
if you were going to lie, why would you lie about being a virgin? So their number.
I understand why you would lie about being a virgin. You get thrown out of the church otherwise.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2 on the list, South Dakota.
Damn, I've lied about being a virgin a long time. Many times.
South Dakota is number 2, and Idaho is number 3.
Idaho's a good,
Which state has the least amount of virgins?
California.
New York.
No, not California, not New York. Vermont. Vermonters are getting it on. 9.02%. Yeah, blame this on Bernie. Vermont is number 1 on the list.
Free love.
Number 2 on the list, Delaware.
Ooh.
Look at Bill. Yeah, look at Bill.
Go Delaware. Go Delaware.
And third from the bottom is New Mexico. New Mexico getting it on.
All right.
So those are the 3 worst and the 3 best. So a big story came out a couple months ago. Christian Bale was going to be starring in a biopic about Enzo Ferrari, the guy that, behind the Ferrari cars. Apparently this guy has quite the colorful life, but here's the problem. Enzo Ferrari was a man of, shall we say, large carriage, and Christian Bale had to back out yesterday because he couldn't put on the weight. He could not put on enough weight to play Enzo Ferrari, a problem a lot of us wish we had.
Yeah.
So he had to back out. So they are going to be looking for another actor. This is going to be directed by Michael Mann, so it's a real deal movie. And he just said, I can't put on the weight. I can't look like the guy. He was heavier.
Yeah, you're right. Don't complain, right?
Right.
Okay.
I wish I had that problem.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, here we go on this Tuesday, January 19th. The announcements came out, just about a week ago, right?
Yeah.
The nominations for the Academy Awards this year. And everybody was very excited, and there was a lot of talk. And then people started taking another look at it and realized, oh my God, here we go again. When you look at those nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Leading, or Best Supporting, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, there is not one person of diversity on the list. It is an all-white ballot, basically. And you just wonder how this could happen again. It happened last year. There was a lot of stink about it. And you would think that the Academy might have made some correction. There was good material out there. There were good people out there to choose from. We'll talk about that in just a second. But none of them made the final cut, which leaves a lot of egg on the face of the Academy. And now there is a movement starting to boycott the Oscars this year, not to show up. Led by Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, who put out a video that she purposely held back until Martin Luther King Day to release this yesterday, announcing that she was going to lead a boycott.
Begging for acknowledgement or even asking diminishes dignity and diminishes power. And we are a dignified people, and we are powerful, and let's not forget it.
We should point out, by the way, that Jada Pinkett Smith in that video is married to Will Smith.
Well, right.
One of the people who arguably could have been nominated this year for his role in Concussion.
In Concussion, right, yeah. But there were, in terms of others, right? Creed with, Creed, to tell the story of Creed, I mean, there's Sylvester Stallone gets one, but nobody else.
So
the one white guy in the movie gets the nomination, right?
Here's the argument for Creed, right? Because it was received fine. It didn't get any kind of critical acclamation. Right. But the one person nominated from the movie was Sylvester Stallone. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And so
they pick among
the director and the star of the movie completely left in the dust.
Yeah.
So the one person that they have representing the movie is a white guy.
It's almost as if they went through, right?
Yeah.
Straight Outta Compton. Got fairly good reviews. I haven't seen it yet.
It was a good film. It's a good little film.
Yeah, you've seen it, right?
Beast of All Nations. That was the one that everybody thought would get nominated, and the star, I could not pronounce his name if I even tried.
So this is also an interesting thing because this was a Netflix movie, Beast of No Nation, starring Idris Elba. And,
thank you.
And I mean, people really thought, like, Netflix has got to have a breakthrough, right?
Right.
With their movies. And so this was a phenomenal movie. And so you could easily make the argument that it should be in Best Picture or Best Actor.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
Yeah, both. So anyhow, others have joined in. I saw yesterday that Spike Lee has said he's going to join the... Has he boycotted in the past? I mean, he's certainly raised stink about this in the past.
I don't know if he's boycotted, but again, I mean, his movie was sort of in the mix here this year, Chirac. And his name is nowhere to be found.
But you wonder in the 20th century, 21st century, rather, sorry, early 20th century, you expected how this could happen again. And what's interesting is that the president of the Academy is an African-American woman, Cheryl Boone Isaacs. Yesterday, she did express her disappointment, but just says they'll just have to, muddle through.
I have to tell you, I was disappointed. A lot of great work was done this year. However, we're not stopping. We're not deterred. We are moving forward, and we will continue to move forward with a conversation and with action, because that needs to happen. We need to, without not just the Academy, but even throughout the industry, motion picture industry, is to nurture talent, to grow talent, to promote talent.
And to recognize talent, I would add to that. And
lest we forget, last year, this was an issue on, of all movies, Selma.
Oh, right.
About Martin
right,
Luther King.
Right.
Which
which
was overlooked in a lot of ways.
Yes. Right.
And so you would think that after that, right, somebody would say, we can't let this happen again.
Absolutely. And, so they say the excuse is, well, look, I think the reality is, actually, there are 6,200 voters in the academy. Most of them are older white men, right?
Yeah.
What do they go see? Whose work do they appreciate? What values? What are not necessarily values, but what experience are they reflecting? Okay, so you get that. Well, then you do something about it, right? I mean, it's like you can't just give that as an excuse that, well, God, we would love to recognize an African American, but we just didn't find any. We didn't see any. We didn't see any of their movies. I mean, it's just, to me, it reminds me of the excuses you used to hear from police departments and fire departments, right? Oh, we'd hire some blacks, except none of them applied, right? Well, you go out and look for them, right? You go out and make it known that you have an open hiring process, and you do some recruiting. Same thing with college campuses. Same thing with businesses today. A bank couldn't get away with having, right? You walk in a bank and all white employees. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Well, we just couldn't
today.
find any. We just couldn't find any that were good enough to work
here. Or used to say that about women too. You can't tell me they could not. Well, if we've talked about some of the candidates who are out there for in terms of movies or in terms of actors or actresses. So just absolutely inexcusable, unacceptable. And somebody's just got to kick the Academy in the ass and say, you need to just shake it up and start from scratch. You know, fire the whole bunch. Not fire them, but I mean,
get some new blood in there.
Get some new blood, right?
You know, the one of the issues here is it wasn't that long ago that they opened up the Best Picture category, because it used to be five. Used to be 5 pictures
so now
that were allowed to be in it. So now they opened it up
to 10.
Yeah, to 10.
How many did they nominate this year?
8.
Right.
So they had 2 slots they could have filled.
Right. So what do you think about this? You ready for the boycott? 866-55-PRESS here. This is a national disgrace and a big cloud hanging over Hollywood. 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, Arthur Delaney joining us at the half hour. Talk to him about what's going on in Flint, Michigan. We're just bemoaning again the fact that we have, as the headline in the New York Times puts it, another Oscar year, another all-white ballot. And one of the things that we've been talking about, others have pointed out, is that how far Hollywood lags behind sports, music, and television in reflecting the diversity of America. The Directors Guild of America did a little study, and they discovered that over a 2-year period, just over 1 in 10 films had been made by minority directors.
Wow.
Wow. You know, so, and Peter, as you pointed out, so in Creed, right? Mm-hmm. So they did, there was one nomination, but that was for the white Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
And in Compton, was it Compton?
Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, Straight Outta Compton did get one nomination for its white writers.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the two films that had minority themes, right? It's a featuring African American. Only the white people involved in them got the nomination. Come on, shake up at the Academy. And I think we're going to see more and more big stars boycotting the Oscars this year. We're just come back with Arthur Delaney from
This
Huffington Post.
is the Bill Press Show.
Today, in this country, we are having a conversation about police violence, the killing of black men, and what all that means. It is sad that this is happening and that every day there's a new incident to cause us to keep thinking about it and talking about it. But it is extraordinary that the American people are having to deal with this every day, whether you're watching CNN or MSNBC, Fox, or ABC News. All the news channels are talking about police violence and what does that mean against black people. Many people probably look at that, certainly have looked at it in the past, and they have said that these poor black men are doing bad things, and that's why they are ending up in confrontations with police without any understanding of the lives of these poor black young men. Part of what has been going on for decades is that poor black people live in communities that suffer from hyper surveillance of the police. The police are more likely to be in their communities. The police are more likely to arrest them. The police are more likely to stop them even if they're not doing anything. And that is what is so hard for the American people to believe, that you would get stopped and searched and arrested by the police and not doing anything. But this is starting to come out as people are telling the stories over and over again. But this has been the condition, this hyper surveillance by police, making it more likely for people to get a record, to be known by the police, and then once they get in the system, it is almost impossible to get out because of the whole system of being on parole and missing an appointment or fraternizing with a person who has a criminal record, getting you right back in the jail, and then going back again and again and again. This is coming to be seen by the American people in a way that it has never been seen before. But why are people in these communities in the first place? That's getting peeled away. People are there because of housing discrimination. They are there because this is the only place where affordable housing can be found. They are there because that's where their families live, and people are drawn to being in communities where they are comfortable. The combination keeps people in these low-income communities where they are an easy target for hyper-surveillance and then everything that comes from it. And so as we think about these issues, we have to understand that while you as an individual in this society, as a white individual, you may not carry personal racism, but that does not keep the system from operating in a racist way.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Governor Rick Snyder now says that the water crisis in Flint, Michigan is his Katrina, calling it a major disaster. Yeah, well, what role did you play, Governor? Arthur Delaney, our good buddy from Huffington Post, has been all over the story before anybody else was paying any attention to it. Joins us in studio this morning. Hello, Arthur.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine.
Is this? It's now. It's become a national story now.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, CBS News last night, NBC News. Everybody's finally paying attention to it, and it's a big deal.
Well, the story has continuously escalated on the national level since December, when the new mayor of Flint declared a disaster And the state officials at that time were like, what is she talking about? We already had a county-level disaster, but it turned out that Mayor Karen Weaver had done something pretty clever because it made it easy for people to pay attention, and people have been paying attention ever since, even though this is after they've already switched back their water source to the one that didn't leach lead from the pipes and poison city children.
So why did they go from getting Detroit water, which was clean, to using Flint River water, which corroded the pipes?
For decades, Flint had got its water from the Detroit water system, but it was getting increasingly expensive. You know, these cities have fiscal woes. So in 2013, the Flint City Council voted to join a new water system that would pump directly from Lake Huron, but it wasn't ready yet. And so in the interim, in 2014, the city, which was under the control of an emergency manager appointed by Snyder, decided to start pumping water from the Flint River. And what they failed to do is control the corrosiveness of that water by adding phosphates. And so they could have done that and prevented this from happening. They just didn't. They knew the water was corrosive, thanks to a study in 2011. And just in general, rivers tend to be more corrosive than lakes. And they blew it. And the city didn't do treatment. The state failed to make sure the city did the right corrosion control. And the EPA failed to make sure that the state was making sure that the city was doing this. So for more than a year, kids drank water that had lead in it, and the lead showed up in their blood with twice as many kids suffering lead poisoning.
I was going to say the result is lead poisoning, particularly among kids, right, who are small bodies and more susceptible to it.
Lead poisoning in adults, can include symptoms like high blood pressure. And I interviewed people in Flint, a guy who was reading the news one morning and went blind in his right eye all of a sudden, and his doctor said, well, your blood pressure shot up and you had an eye stroke. And the guy's only 45. They're certain it's the lead. But in children, those are the ones who are really vulnerable because it can cause stunted growth and permanent brain damage. Your IQ goes down. It doesn't necessarily cause those things.
Right. But
on the population level, we know that that's what happens.
And people died of Legionnaire's disease. Has that been connected to? Is there any?
It's likely that the Legionnaire's disease is connected because they've shown that the number of cases of Legionnaires spiked corresponding with the water switch. But that's something that, it's not in the water you drink. It has to become aerosolized. So it's a problem more of a problem if you're in a big building that has a water system.
Yeah.
Say.
Now, where are they now? They've switched back to Detroit River water, Detroit City water, correct?
Right. But because of the way pipes become internally coated when you're doing the right corrosion controls, and that coating is gone, it's still not safe. So they have no idea. It could be as long as 6 months before the water is safe to drink again. And right away, by the way, I mean, people were complaining about the water. It was brown.
Yeah.
And disgusting. And it caused rashes. And the city and the state said, don't worry about it. And then there were reports of high lead levels. And they continued to say, no, don't worry about it. We have our own data.
So what are they doing about it in the meantime? People are just using the water?
Well, the governor called in the National Guard. They've got this federal emergency disaster declaration from President Obama. And what these measures mainly are doing is helping to distribute bottled water and filters.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can use the water for bathing.
Well, I was just going to say, I saw them handing out these boxes of bottled water. But they're not giving their kids a bath in that bottled water. They're giving kids a bath in this leaded water.
Right. Well, lead poisoning doesn't really happen through a bath, so that's okay. But they did say, don't play in the bath for too long if you're bathing your little kid.
Not helpful.
Yeah.
No, imagine putting your kids in that water. If you're a parent, you wouldn't want to do it, right?
Kids occasionally will drink the bath water.
Yes. Hello.
Right. So don't linger in the bath. I mean, it's still you have the problem of the rashes and your hair falling out. But
other than that,
that's not as bad as permanent brain damage. So they're distributing door to door with troops and Red Cross volunteers bottled water.
Aren't they going to have to? Isn't the only solution to replace all the pipes?
That's the most incredible thing about this. First of all, that lead pipes are just in the ground in Washington, D.C., and Flint, and all these other cities. I was going to say,
by the way, they are in the ground in Washington, D.C., too.
A long story I wrote last week compared what happened in Flint to what happened here when we had an even worse lead poisoning crisis more than 10 years ago, from 2001 through 2004. And I think it was less of a national story because we didn't have this element where a Republican governor and an emergency manager made a sort of cheapskate decision that contributed to what happened.
I remember they came to our house on Capitol Hill, and they went door to door testing the water to be sure that
there was the
lead levels were acceptable.
There was a federal government level cover up, but probably more people were exposed to lead for a longer period of time. But here's the sinister thing: is if you're exposed to lead, you're a little kid. You can't prove it that's what it is. You might not even necessarily know that your kids suffered lead poisoning.
But okay, so I want to back to replacing all the pipes. Is that the answer?
That would be a solution, but that's not on the menu of things that are going to do. I mean, one of the problems was,
why not? Because it's too expensive.
Well, for a while there, the EPA required, if you're a certain number of your water samples in a given period are above the action level for lead, they would tell you, if you're a public water system, you have to replace 7% of your lead pipes every year. But it turned out that was actually even worse than doing nothing, because they would replace the lead service line leading up to the house, but then it would be up to the homeowner to replace the one under the house, and then the jostling of replacing the pipes would cause lead to break free, and so you would actually poison people even worse.
Oh, good.
So they don't do that anymore.
The solution is worse than the problem.
Well, the solution would be for the government to just replace all the pipes, but it would cost a fortune. Sure. So nobody wants to do it.
Right. Okay.
But we have a strategy of leaving lead pipes in the ground and just monitoring it, waiting for lead levels to spike in the water, or in this case, in the kids.
And what's this idiot governor doing in the meantime?
Well, he's been really busy since December. He's partnered with the mayor in Flint. He's done everything he can to avoid looking aloof, which is how they looked before.
Or avoid
December.
accepting responsibility, hasn't he?
No. He has apologized, said the state blew it, and fired some of the big shots in the State Department of Environmental Quality. But people are calling for him to resign. Bernie Sanders said he should resign. People were protesting outside.
Michael Moore, I think, has called for him to resign.
Michael Moore says he should be in jail.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
he's
Michael
gone.
Moore is dangling the handcuffs. People are protesting at his house. He has a State of the State speech tonight, and this will probably be the defining issue. But he's been busy, and he has done what the mayor wanted, which is everything possible in order to bring more federal assistance. And the emergency declaration by the president over the weekend does bring in a lot more money for the next 3 months.
Well, the old question, what did he know and when did he know it?
His chief of staff in July knew about this and said people are concerned we're brushing them off. They had a state agency there.
Governor?
It's not clear what he knew. And there was this sort of strange...
Sounds like Chris Christie in the Bridge to me.
Yeah. What did you know? And did your chief of staff know it, but not you? And how plausible is that?
Right. Not very.
It's a good question.
Flint, national story. Arthur Delaney here from Huffington Post. The man on the scene, 866-55-PRESS. All of our good friends out there in Michigan, weigh in on this or anywhere else in the country. I'm sure this is not a problem that's been known to Flint alone. As you pointed out, Washington, D.C. had its problems. Other jurisdictions have too. What's the answer? 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes before the top of the hour with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post, Igor Volsky. Think Progress coming up at the top of the next hour. Our Tuesday lineup here on the Bill Press Show. So, what's the next step in this with Flint? They're just they're going to continue this. Do they think it'll take like a year for this to work itself out of the system?
What I read is they thought it could take as long as 6 months. It could be less time than that. But the effects of the lead on the population are permanent.
Yeah.
In lifetime. And there are things they can do to help kids. Like, some kids might need tutors. Some kids might wind up with ADHD. But you'll never be able to prove it. It poisons every system in the body. Lead does.
How big is Flint?
It's a city of nearly 100,000 people. So it's thousands of kids we're talking about. But after this happened in Washington, there was just nothing.
Right.
And, hundreds or even thousands of kids suffered lead poisoning or were at least exposed to lead and had elevated blood lead levels. And there's a couple straggler lawsuits that could go to trial this year for a lead poisoning event that was more than 10 years ago. And there's been nothing done for them.
So, as you know, in the debate Sunday night, Hillary Clinton raised this issue and said that this happened in Flint a predominantly African-American city, if it had happened in a suburb of Detroit, I think she was really talking about Grosse Pointe, because not all the suburbs of Detroit are wealthy white. But if it happened in a place like Grosse Pointe, it would be a national disaster, right?
Well, it is a national disaster.
But I mean,
officially.
Yeah, right. But even more so, people would be a lot more concerned about it. Did she have a point?
Yeah, one thing, I've been sort of surprised Republicans have been so quiet about it because the EPA, which is one of their favorite boogeymen,
yeah, sure, right,
had a huge role here. And why aren't they talking about that? So because I guess it was a failure of regulation. You'd think that would
not
get them
just
excited.
the governor, not just the Republican governor of Michigan, but the EPA also.
No, but maybe it just hasn't gotten enough attention and people don't realize. But the EPA was closely involved. One of their employees had a report in June saying they're not doing corrosion control. There are high lead levels in the water, and it's a serious problem. And then they basically
didn't do anything.
Were silent about that report.
All right, let's bring in Pat from out in Beloit, Wisconsin. Hi, Pat. What do you think?
Well, Bill, here's the thing. In Wisconsin, we have serious problems due to our governor not funding cities properly. So some of our cities are no longer treating their sewage correctly because they can't afford to. And then we have the rural runoff from ag. And my well, I think, is questionable. Many wells are questionable. And in my road alone, almost every household, because I'm a rural person, has had cancer. I'm fighting my third battle with cancer. Our pets have been sick and died from cancer. The common denominator is the water. And USA Today did have a great article around the 11th and 12th of December about the water situation in this country that might be worth somebody looking at, and worldwide. We must do better protecting our water. Cancer's not fun, and here we are polluting.
Right. Yeah, Pat, thank you. Yeah, that there's a common denominator. Water, I guess, looking. I guess more and more people will be looking at their water supply and testing it and raising questions.
Yeah, I mean, private wells are usually not part of the public water systems. Right. But yeah, our strategy is to monitor for high lead levels in cities where there are lead pipes. So you're just kind of waiting for it to happen before you do something. It's a little bit questionable.
The whole approach to it.
And it gives water systems incentives to monitor in ways that reduce the risk. They'll trigger this action level, and they can tell people, hey, flush your pipes before you fill up the water bottles that we use for testing. Or they'll omit tests from places with lead service lines. So there's some dodgy stuff, and we saw some of that in Flint as well. So it's a whole system of just waiting for high lead levels that inevitably they'll happen.
With Rick Snyder comparing this to Katrina, does he realize?
I think that might have been a question posed to Rick Snyder.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he is inviting that comparison.
He did not volunteer that comparison.
He probably said, no, it's not my Katrina. I didn't see this interview, but that's just my guess based on what Rick Snyder is doing. He's admitted some mistakes, but also been defensive, like he tweeted against Hillary Clinton, say no finger pointing.
Good. I hope he's not dumb enough to say this is my Katrina.
That would be interesting.
Arthur Delaney, always good to see you. You're right on top of it. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
See you next time. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
So you're drowning in student debt, and it looks like there's no way out. Have you considered bankruptcy? Of course not. It's a dirty word, and everything you've heard says students can't file anyway. It didn't start that way. Bankruptcy laws were enacted in the 19th century to give people a fresh start. But not all debt is created equal. Take this, for example. We have you, your buddy Carlos, and your grandma Lucy. Carlos got laid off. His credit card debt was too much to handle, so he filed for bankruptcy. It will totally screw his credit, but at least he can start fresh, and after 10 years, his credit report should be fine. Grandma Lucy's home lost half its value. Now her mortgage isn't worth paying back. She says F it and decides to file for bankruptcy too. Then there's you. You didn't land that dream job, you're struggling to make ends meet, but the interest just keeps piling up. With a broken heart, you've written off the possibility of buying a home, having kids, and getting married because, hello, who wants to deal with your crazy baggage? But in reality, you want those things, and your education was supposed to get you there. Now you need a fresh start, just what bankruptcy was intended for. You try to file, like Carlos and Grandma Lucy, and that's when you realize it's not as easy for you as it was for them. In the 70s, Congress worried that students were using bankruptcy to abuse loan programs. That wasn't quite true. Still, over the years, Congress gradually stripped student debtors of their options. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978 was even called discriminatory toward students by the chairman of the subcommittee. Student debt was singled out and lumped with criminal debts. Today, if student debtors try filing for bankruptcy anyway, they'll need to prove their debt imposes an undue hardship. But who's to say what qualifies as an undue hardship? Even some judges have said they don't get it. This lack of clarity in the law could work in your favor. A Harvard researcher discovered in 2012 that few students actually try to discharge their loans through bankruptcy. Of the students who filed for bankruptcy to settle other debts, only 0.1% try the same tactic on their school debt. The craziest part? Just under half of them got their debts fully or partially discharged. In other words, you can file for bankruptcy on your student loans. Depending on your situation, it might just be a matter of trying. At least there's that.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Are you ready for Igor Volsky? Well, you better be, because he comes up next at the top of the hour, and followed by John Nichols from The Nation.
All right, so we might be stuck with Donald Trump, but the UK is
I'm not stuck with Donald Trump.
There was a debate yesterday in the House of Commons about whether or not to ban Donald Trump from entering the UK. 570,000 people signed a petition to ban him, so that means that they actually had to take this on. Now, it was a very heated discussion. Donald Trump was called an attention seeker, a fool, a buffoon, a demagogue, and even was called a wazzock, which is British slang for a stupid or annoying person. So they spent half the afternoon debating this, but there was no vote on the matter. David Cameron had already said that he would not ban Mr. Trump.
I love that.
But they spent the afternoon thinking about it.
Maybe we ought to do that.
Yeah, right?
Congress back in session.
Wazzock.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
my God! Wait for me!
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Banned in Britain? Will Donald Trump really be banned in Britain? They debated it yesterday. Didn't vote, but they debated it. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Maybe we should consider that. It is The Bill Press Show on Tuesday, January 19. Hello, hello. Great to see you today, and welcome. Welcome to the Bill Press Show, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio on Capitol Hill. We are here with you everywhere in this great land of ours. They're at home with you, in your car, in your office, wherever you are. Out for a walk? I hope not this cold. Stay indoors. But here with you on your radio, your local television, local progressive radio station, and here on television on Free Speech TV. I'm just bungling it today. I guess I'll just turn it over to somebody else who does a better job than I do. Maybe like Igor Volsky.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. From Think Pride. Don't you dare come over across that desk.
We know he doesn't mean it.
Hello, Igor. How are you?
Good morning. It's the cold. Blame it on the cold, Bill.
That's what it is, yeah.
You had to wake up early, you had to walk all the way over here.
13?
Clutching your
It's 13 degrees outside, although they say that with the wind chill here in Washington, D.C., it feels like a degree.
Yeah.
A single degree. 1 degree.
Yeah. By the way, try walking your dogs in this weather. You just try it. It's a miracle I'm still sitting here.
Any smart dog wouldn't go out in this weather.
Oh, wow.
They would say, you take a walk by yourself today.
I have very adventurous dogs.
Right. And Igor, say hello to our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Yo. Here we are.
Yo, Ray, just cold doesn't keep us away. Ray Rogers is here. With your telephone calls expected and welcome at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding here as well, our videographer on the job. It was a big day yesterday for evangelicals. Yes, they were looking for their Savior, the second coming. Who would get the blessing of the evangelical community? Mike Huckabee, former preacher.
No.
Ted Cruz, whose daddy was a preacher.
Maybe.
Rick Santorum,
No.
who, has always been the favorite of the evangelicals. No. Liberty University invited Donald Trump. And Jerry Falwell Jr. almost endorsed him.
Yeah, just about.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, he
my.
said he reminds me of my daddy. Donald Trump reminds me
course.
of my father. Oh, God.
Vomit.
Yeah, vomit is right. And Donald Trump, remember, who said at one time that the Bible was his favorite book.
It's a good read.
And then he was asked to name just his favorite passage or verse from the Bible, and he couldn't think of one. Well, yesterday he had thought of one, except he blows about where it came from. Here he is.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ball game. Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And here there is Liberty College, but Liberty University.
But if I close my eyes for a second, it's like I'm listening to Billy Graham himself.
Yes.
Wow. 2 Corinthians. That's the whole ball game. Yeah, we've all heard that. Jesus.
That's how they teach it in Sunday school.
How about 2 Corinthians, Donald?
Yeah.
If he'd been in church once, he might have known.
2 Corinthians.
But
2 Corinthians walk into a bar.
You know what? He can fake a lot, right?
He can.
He can fake being a businessman. He can fake being a politician. He can't fake being a preacher.
Yeah. That's the whole ball game. That's how he set it up. I mean, what is that?
All I have to say is I give credit to there are 13,000 students there, and they did not laugh out loud.
Right.
They were probably told ahead of time.
They all know better.
This guy's a clown, so get ready, but don't laugh at him.
Yeah, whatever you do, bless his heart. He's going to talk about the scripture, bless his heart, but don't laugh at him.
Igor here for the first half hour, joined by John Nichols from The Nation magazine a little bit later, and then reporters from New York Times and Washington Post. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
All right, just a couple of other stories making news. Whatever you think about this next story is not funny.
All right.
All right. So one presidential candidate on the Republican side was speaking yesterday, and he took a question from an 11-year-old who talked about the Let's Move, right? Michelle Obama's initiative to try and get children to eat healthier. And he promised that as president, he would get rid of it. He would let students start to be able to eat whatever they want because it's very restrictive. Anybody want to guess which presidential candidate weighed in on that?
Oh, no. Chris Christie.
Chris Christie. Can't figure out if this is ironic or poetic that Chris Christie is the one who has vowed to get rid of healthy school lunches because the kid said, I really like getting pizza and Crispitos. I don't know what Crispitos
I don't know
are.
either.
Crispitos, but they've gone away under the Obama administration. Chris Christie said, under a Chris Christie presidency, you can eat all the unhealthy crap you want.
Get as fat as you want.
Get as fat as you want, man.
And the new program called Don't You Dare Move.
That's right. Yeah, don't move. Whatever you do, don't move. There's a company called FlowHub, and what they do is they provide software for the cannabis industry. You know, with weed becoming legal in more and more places, it's becoming harder and harder for people to adapt to old business models for things that used to be illegal. So FlowHub helps create software to help cannabis dealers or retailers to sort of keep their business in check, right? And they have a philosophy at work. We get S done, but if you need to get high to get S done, we're okay with that. So they have lunch breaks, but they also have weed breaks. Weed breaks where members of the company can go and get a little high and then go back and finish doing their work.
You would expect that with that company.
Right?
What do you think, Bill, of implementing something like this here?
I was going to say, I mean...
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that explains that.
What time is it? Yeah.
Haven't you noticed?
And we say farewell to Yasutaro Kode. He was the world's oldest man, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, and we lost him yesterday at the young age of 112 years old. Now, this obviously is not a title that people hold for very long, world's oldest man or world's oldest woman, but I always like to bring these stories so we can find out what caused them to live so long. I don't know if I like this one. He said he never had a smoke, never had a sip of alcohol, and he never once overdid it.
Big letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be too late for me.
That clean living got him that far in life. I don't know, man. I'm not sold on it.
There is something, I don't know. There's something wrong with this title of oldest man and oldest woman, because they always die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't hold the title for very long.
It's not a title I want.
Right.
Oh, Igor, where do we start? Let's start. Martin Luther King Day yesterday. You celebrated in unusual fashion, calling out some of these Republicans who are quick to stand up and praise Martin Luther King Jr. Yeah.
You know, I opened my tweet deck yesterday morning. I was in the office doing some work, and I was going to do, something completely different, just my regular job. And I look over at my column for lawmakers, and you have Republican after Republican celebrating MLK, his leadership, his quotes, all this and all that. And I thought, you know what? This is one of those days where the people who every single day work to undermine MLK's dream, today, they praise him, of course. And so I kind of went one by one, calling these people out, saying, one way to live up to Martin Luther King's dream wouldn't be to cut $40 billion from food stamps, for instance, or it would be to vote to strengthen the Voting Rights Act after it was gutted by the court in 2013, or it would be not to brag about the fact that you want to take health care away from 16 million people. How about that? Or Jeb Bush, who said that, who had some tweet honoring Martin Luther King, who, of course, during his tenure as governor, disenfranchised thousands of African-American voters, just purged them, knocked them off the voting rolls.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the hypocrisy of these folks and the fact that they get away with kind of rhetorically praising him and celebrating him, but of course in their deeds demonstrating that they believe in nothing that he stood for as a leader. My favorite one was this congressman from Alabama, I believe, who talked about how Martin Luther King, of course, really reminded him that everyone is equal. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting, because most of the Republicans didn't specifically discuss what they liked about King. They talked about him very generally. But this guy talked about equality. So I Googled his name, and it turns out this guy who honored Martin Luther King because he thought it reminded him that everybody is equal was one of the few members in Congress who still supports a constitutional amendment to ban same-sex marriage.
Oh, geez.
So there we go. He was the winner of the tweet storm.
Well, yeah, but it reminds me of Paul Ryan, who has a big forum a couple of weeks ago in South Carolina on poverty.
Yeah.
And everything he would do was cut every single program.
Billions of dollars.
That helps
from
the poor.
Pell Grants, from Medicaid, from food stamps.
Across the board.
Tremendous,
Every program designed to help the poor, give them a temporary, bridge if they need it, whatever. Paul Ryan would get rid of. Yeah. But he'll have a forum saying, "Oh, we really care about poverty.
We really care.
Disgusting. Good for you, busting them."
Enough is enough, Bill.
I know it is. Yes, indeed. Well, how about in line with this sort of, all the Republicans lining up to say, in fact, Jamie, if we can get Chris Christie here, Republicans lining up to blast the Iran nuclear deal. Now, there's the nuclear deal and there's the prisoner exchange, which happened at the same time, even though the Obama administration says they were two different paths. They probably happened at the same time. They certainly were related. So you would think these 5 Americans are coming home. We've seen Dan Kildee and Jared Huffman, the members of Congress, who are over there bringing their constituents home. The president involved, John Kerry's involved, Susan Rice. This is something we could all just say, above politics, this is good news, right? Oh, no. Chris Christie, here he is.
Every American that's abroad is now in more danger today than they were before, because they know that they have a president in the Oval Office and a Secretary of State who is willing to pay ransom for hostages.
Oh, man.
No. How about we have a president and a Secretary of State who are willing to fight to get every American back out of prison, right?
I don't understand the political calculus of telling voters that if they were president, those 5 Americans would still be held hostage in Iran. And
thank you.
Iran would still have lots of materials with which to make a nuclear weapon within a period of 2 to 3 months. So that's what they're saying. And the fact on the nuclear deal, the fact that we got Iran to destroy huge amounts of weapons-grade materials to set back the amount of time they need to make a bomb by a year. The fact that this is even a partisan issue in America is shocking. Just think about it. It was unthinkable during the Bush administration that Iran would willingly take steps to dismantle its plutonium reactor, its plutonium plant, would ship out 98% of the uranium it has, would dismantle centrifuges by 2/3 voluntarily, would let inspectors in a regime that's unprecedented in the world in terms of how accessible things are to these inspectors. And the fact that they argue now that this makes things America less secure is shocking to me.
No, it is. But, it's just, it's almost so good that they can't take yes for an answer, right?
No.
I mean, all those things you mentioned, and then the sweetener, right? These 5 prisoners coming home, right? I mean, this is a huge accomplishment.
1984, Jesse Jackson helped secure the release of prisoners from Lebanon. And against the wishes of Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan said at the time, you know what? You can't quarrel with success. I'm very happy they're here, and I honor Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Yeah. Good point. And you would think that they'd be big enough to do that.
You'd think.
Of course, they're not. But so they look like idiots. But I have to say this. I know I'm going to get some hate mail on this one, too. I'll tell you who else looks like an idiot. Bibi Netanyahu, right? Coming here, giving a speech in front of Congress. I mean, right? Slamming this deal, bad-mouthing this deal, attacking the President of the United States. I haven't heard much from Bibi in the last couple of days.
Well,
either.
he said after the deal,
Bibi would turn around and say, "You know what? I was wrong." Of course, I'll never do that.
No. He said after the deal that he is now going to be Iran's enforcer and make sure that Iran doesn't violate its deal, which is not a bad idea. So there you go. He's taking the next step and saying, we are going to ensure that there's no sneaky behavior
Bibi,
by Iran.
Bibi, just admit you were
Weapons
wrong.
Inspector Bibi Netanyahu is on the case.
I'll tell you who's on the case, Marco Rubio. We'll find out about that when we come back here with Igor Volsky from Think Progress.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold. From the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness
my beauty,
my power.
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, John Nichols from The Nation magazine joins us at the half hour right now. Right now, we're here with Igor Volsky from Think Progress on many of the hot issues of the day. Marco Rubio kind of stepping into it a little bit yesterday. Peter, I'm a reporter. You're Marco Rubio. Senator, what do you think of the Flint, Michigan water crisis?
Well, first of all, let me just say, what? I appreciate the question.
Basically, that's how it went down.
Igor, the fact is, he had never heard of it.
He'd never heard of it. He said, I haven't been following it. We haven't been briefed on it. I mean, we're like in week, 2 of this crisis?
Oh, well, it actually...
I mean, those have been following it. It's been going on for a lot longer than that.
But as a national story.
Everybody, Arthur Delaney started reporting on it in December. But as a national story in the last couple of weeks.
The last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Big time.
Obama just declared a state of emergency.
Right.
The Republican governor, Rick
Wait,
Snyder.
Who declared?
Yeah, exactly. Who?
Obama. Is it the president?
The president.
I'm sorry, I never heard of him.
America.
Yeah.
Yeah, here he is running for president on the national stage saying, I don't know about that. 99,000 residents are dealing with polluted water. As Delaney pointed out, consequences from lead poisoning can last years and years and years. You don't know what's going to happen to this community. And he doesn't care enough to even ask to be briefed on it. And he admits this on MLK Day.
Yes. But
let's just close the circle. On MLK Day.
Remember, he also blamed Obama for it, even though I know nothing about it, but it must be Obama's fault. No, he didn't do that, but I'm surprised that he didn't. But I'll tell you what he did do. We discovered on Meet the Press on Sunday. I don't know how you spent Christmas Eve or anybody else, but Marco Rubio spent Christmas Eve at a gun store buying a gun. Here he is. Explaining
People
why.
buying firearms recently, and you bought one on Christmas Eve. Why?
I have a right to protect my family if someone were to come after us. In fact, if ISIS were to visit us or our communities at any moment, the last line of defense between ISIS and my family is the ability that I have to protect my family from them or from a criminal or anyone else that seeks to do us harm. Millions of Americans feel that way.
Right. There he is. Marco Rubio, man. He's your defender against ISIS. He's going to protect his family from ISIS. Christmas Eve. Yeah, goes out and buys a gun.
I don't think there's anything we can say about that.
That's
I think
just
we
the
just need to let that
dumbest thing.
float. We need to let a top-tier presidential candidate explain that his anti-ISIS strategy is arming every American to protect themselves and their families
The
from
last
ISIS.
line of defense between us and ISIS.
Here's
man.
what I want to know. What the hell is he doing in Iowa? He ought to be in South Florida standing outside
That's
his
right.
family house with that gun, protecting
right.
his
He's gonna
family.
stand his ground
Because
there in
ISIS
Florida.
is after him. Yeah. Hey, Igor, great.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Maybe not as loud as Donald Trump, but he's a hell of a lot smarter. This is your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election, The Bill Press Show.
It's 33 minutes after the hour, January 19. I might also say that I know the Bible a little better than Donald Trump. I at least I know it's 2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians. This is the whole ball game.
This is the whole ball game. 2 Corinthians. I'm telling you, following Donald Trump. It's a hard job. Somebody's got to do it. John Nichols from The Nation magazine has actually been out on the trail.
It's the whole ball game
with Donald Trump. He's also the one who did a great profile in The Nation about our friend Bernie Sanders, who's been endorsed now by The Nation magazine for President of the United States. John Nichols joining us from Madison, Wisconsin. He is Washington correspondent for The Nation. Hey, John, Happy New Year. Haven't talked to you, but for the New Year yet.
I've been missing you, man. I'm delighted to be hearing your voice and here for our Tuesday morning Bible study.
Yeah. There we go. Hey, and also the big news here, we'll break the news. Yeah. You don't even know this, but we have been talking with Tim Scott, the program director at 92.1 The Mic, and we're coming out we don't have the date yet. We're coming out to Madison, Wisconsin soon.
Let's make it a festive event.
We will indeed.
And, I have to tell you, if I'm reading the politics of 2016 correctly, my sense is that if you come before or around the first week in April, you may be watching a significant Wisconsin primary campaign, perhaps on both sides of the ballot.
You know what? That's a good, Peter, there's a good target, huh?
There you go.
Yeah.
April, we have we have a primary the first week of April.
Yeah.
And it's the solo one. It's essentially the big one for that week. It will also come after, you get through all of Super Tuesday, all of the march back and forth. And I would suggest it's probably
that's a good target. We'll do that. Okay. Hey, so let's talk about our friend Bernie. You and I, early on, were two of the people that Bernie confided in that he was thinking about maybe running for president. Did you ever expect to see him where he is today? I mean, really tied with Hillary in Iowa and leading her in New Hampshire.
We did an interview with him in The Nation back in 2014, a long time ago, almost 2 years ago, in which he said he was prepared to run for president. But if you go back and read that interview, you can see that he was uncertain, and he had a line in it that was very interesting. He said that he would run for president if he thought that there was a movement out there that was ready to go for it, that it was bigger than him, and that if he got in, something amazing would happen, what he referred to as a political revolution. And I have to tell you, I've interviewed a lot of politicians, and I've heard a few of them sort of imagine something like that. I have rarely, if ever, seen someone sort of scope out what he would like to see and actually have it happen. But it is, at the baseline, no matter what happens with this campaign, no matter how far it gets, he has already gotten what he was sort of hoping for 2 years ago. Now, obviously, your hopes evolve, and you start to look for more than that. But he certainly achieved what I think he initially imagined he'd like to do.
And he has admitted, beyond his dream, even beyond. Now, I have to ask, so now polls getting close, so things have gotten a little more heated, and Hillary Clinton Sunday night accused him of wanting to destroy Obamacare, throw away Medicare, Medicaid, the Children's Health Program, and everything.
Well,
do you think Bernie responded to that and made his case adequately?
Reasonably. But let's step back for 1 second and say, first off, if the campaign doesn't get heated, it's not serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So I am not, going to come here and fault, anybody for turning up the volume.
No, that's what it's all about. It's hardball.
And for looking for what you think are vulnerabilities and weaknesses. That's going to happen. It's reality. Now, here's where I think the attack on healthcare, or particularly the attack on single payer,
right,
that was launched last week, was, to my mind, a very, very foolish attack. It was foolish not because of the politics of it, not because of the dynamics of the issue, but because over the last, I would say, 20, 25 years, when the cause of healthcare reform has risen and fallen, gone forward, gone backward, always grassroots activists have been organizing around the issue of single-payer Medicare for all healthcare.
Yep.
It's what people at the grassroots know. It's what they cheer. And so to attack it and to say it's unreasonable or that it's destructive of Obamacare, ACA, or something like that, that's not how people at the grassroots see it. In fact, one of the reasons that grassroots activists who didn't think the ACA was everything they wanted supported the Affordable Care Act was because they did see it as a step in the direction of single payer.
Right.
And Bernie Sanders himself, when he was a passionate advocate for ACA, when he was out there adding smart amendments to it, speaking for it on the floor of the Senate, going out and speaking for it when he sought re-election to the Senate. When he was doing that, he was saying, this isn't antithetical to single payer. Now, imagine if back in 2009, 2010, Bernie Sanders had chosen to do that, had chosen to say, I can't support the Affordable Care Act because it's not single payer. Then I think this attack would resonate. It would have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't what happened. It's quite the opposite. And in fact, I do think that, I think Hillary Clinton has areas where she can go after Bernie Sanders, show real difference, and perhaps get some traction. I don't disagree that that's possible.
Right.
But this one, I don't think is the right one.
No, I'm with you on that, too, and I've made that point. But on the one where I think she has gotten some traction, would you agree, is on the issue of guns. I think Bernie's been a little slow to move on that point, and maybe he never will.
Look, here's the bottom line. Bernie Sanders is running as an anti-corporate power candidate. And when you hit him on a vote on a bill dealing with immunity for gun
manufacturers, yeah.
I apologize for my language stumble there. That doesn't sound right. I mean, Bernie Sanders should be in favor of going after those guys. And I think he has now indicated that he is. But I think that, yes, the Clinton people saw some opening there, and they went for it. And, here's the complexity of it. What Bernie Sanders is saying about his desire to go after gun violence is basically speaking from a very mainstream spot, from a mainstream progressive spot. He's saying, it's not going to be easy. We got to unite folks. We got to try for, finding ways to get in there and unlock this issue. I don't think that resonates as well at this point, because here's somebody talking about a political revolution, and on this one I kind of want to do the more cautious route or the more studied route. And so I think the Clinton people have seen that.
They see a vulnerability there, and
they've gone for it.
Right. Now, tell us about your exposure to Donald Trump, about Donald Trump rallies. I mean, what is this guy like on the stump? Does he really rev up the crowd? Do they believe this crap?
The crowd comes revved up.
Oh,
so
really?
He doesn't have to rev them up.
Oh,
this is the most amazing thing. It's like going to a concert for a sort of, maybe a washed-up rock star that his fans still really love him. And it doesn't really matter what he does as long as he does the hits. So, Trump sort of rambles for a very long time. He'll talk about whatever has come into the news that week, whatever occurs that day. I'm sure in the next day or so he'll be talking about the British parliamentary debate about whether to ban him or bar him from the country. But the interesting thing is that he gets to certain points and the crowd goes wild, and they love the immigration stuff. They also love something that he does, which is essentially he validates them. they have come feeling like they're really on the outside, really on the edge. Everything's against them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trump says, a few months ago I started talking about immigration. Now everybody's talking about immigration. A few months ago I started talking about, getting hostages out of Iran. Now the hostages are out. Now, you and I know that there's a lot of other things going on. It isn't just Trump, right? But his people at those rallies, when he says that, he makes them feel like, he's taken their concerns, taken their passions, and, now this is important, you know this, Bill, as a longtime political player, he makes them feel like he is getting something done, even as a candidate. So it's a wild experience, and the only counsel I will give, and this is important counsel, I think, this guy is a shapeshifter, a political shapeshifter. He gives different messages in different places. He doesn't care when he gets something wrong, and most of his followers don't either. And frankly, most of the national media is not that rough on him.
Yeah.
When he gets stuff wrong, they just move on to the next topic.
It's
if
remarkable.
He gets the Republican nomination, he will shapeshift again into a champion of reindustrializing urban and factory town America, and he will go straight after the Reagan Democrat vote. You can hear that in his rallies even now. And so people who are cautiously dismissive should be conscious of the fact that if he gets the nomination, he will make a play that will be politically, I think, volatile and one to watch. Do not dismiss him casually.
Whoa, that is a serious warning, man. I got to tell you. I think you're right. Absolutely right. And you know what? Everybody's been wrong dismissing him so far, right?
That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
I hear this already. I hear this now as a, kind of like a backbeat in his messaging. I think he will. I would not doubt for a second that if he were nominated, he would be nominated, remember, in Cleveland, Ohio, a town that's been hit by a lot of deindustrialization.
Yeah.
I think he'd go right across Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and he will talk about trade. He will talk about. He's already talking more about trade policy in his rally. He will talk about deindustrialization. He will go for Reagan Democrats, and when I talk to union folks who've done internal polling, they will tell you that they worry about vulnerabilities.
Oh, I'll bet, man. Well, with that warning, it's so good to catch up with you, John Nichols from The Nation, thenation.com. All right, John, we'll make our plans for Madison with you. And
you are always welcome, and I know the people will be thrilled to see you.
A festive time we will have indeed. Thanks, John, so much.
Take care.
All right, he's the best, John Nichols. Whew, pretty scary stuff about Donald Trump, huh?
Yeah, it is.
All right, right back. You got a comment? 866-55-PRESS.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Bill Press Show brought to you today in part by LifeLock.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend.
We'll talk all about that. And then Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post here on the prisoner release from Iran. Talking with John Nichols about Bernie Sanders a little bit and about Donald Trump. Pretty scary where he thinks he could, Donald Trump, were he the nominee, could reach out
one of the things I heard
appeal to Reagan Democrats.
One of the things I heard Nichols talk about that I think carries over to a general that I heard somebody else say after watching a couple of Trump rallies is you see all these candidates up there who say, well, I understand why the voters are angry. I understand why the voters are angry, except Donald Trump, who just says, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like he's with the voters. He gets it.
Right.
So that carries over.
On Bernie, here is Ian calling from Aurora, Illinois. Hello, Ian. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. I love Bernie. I love where he's coming from, but I keep wondering why Hillary isn't attacking him on his ability to effectively govern. When I look at Obama, he's much more center than Bernie is. Obama's had trouble with the Democrats. He's gotten nowhere with the Republicans. How can Bernie do better?
That's a good question. I think about anybody. I guess it's a little complicated in the sense that it's hard to believe anybody can get anything done with the Republican leadership that we have now, because they just, that's the position that they adopted the year one against Obama, and they have kept it up, and they've opposed anything Obama proposed, even though some of those things were things that they had supported before under George W. Bush. But then you could ask the same question about Hillary. I think Bernie has shown. Remember that question kind of came up in the debate, Ian, when he talked about like on the Veterans Bill. He was chair of the Veterans Committee, and they did get a very strong bipartisan bill out. So I think Bernie's shown some ability to work with Republicans. I think Hillary Clinton has too, to her credit. As Secretary of State, as First Lady, and a senator from New York, and probably more so than Bernie. But I think it's a question that everybody should ask about every single candidate. You're right. I haven't heard Hillary ask that one directly. I think it was Lester Holt that asked the question of the candidates, not Hillary making that point against Bernie.
That's just a reality of being president these days, right? How to work with obstructionists.
It is a reality, and it was a question that Republicans raised against Barack Obama legitimately, and people can raise that question today against both Hillary and Bernie and all those Republicans. Yeah, tell me how Ted Cruz would govern effectively, or Donald Trump. Right back and tell you what the president's up to today.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
And the Bill Press Show rolls on and on into hour number 3. I have to wait around till 5 o'clock Eastern on Free Speech 2 Pacific to catch hour number 3. But you can catch it right away, remember, on our video stream, TawkrTV. Emma Roller from the New York Times. She's got a piece in this morning's New York Times op-ed. She'll be here with us in studio. We'll also be talking with Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post about the release of those prisoners from Iran. Lots coming up in hour number 3, so don't go anywhere. Stay right here with us.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Australia. That's a big word for today. President Obama meeting with the new Prime Minister of Australia in the Oval Office this morning, starting about 11:15. They'll have a one-on-one. I guess the vice president, no, he's not even in town. He's in Europe. The president and the prime minister. And then after their meeting, they will have a working lunch. I'm sure one of the things they're going to be talking about is Australia's ban on assault weapons and how well it has worked down there. The president this afternoon meets with Secretary of State John Kerry. We have our briefing today with Press Secretary Josh Earnest. No briefing yesterday because of MLK Day. Our briefing today is at 12:30. We'll come back with Emma Roller from the New York Times and then Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post. Lots more coming up. Hour number 3. So hang right in there. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Society, civilizations, in some sense, are like our bodies. If there's something systemically wrong, it's manifesting all over the place, in all our organs, and that seems to be what's going on in our world at the moment.
The system is failing all around us.
Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our jails are full and can't hold more people. Our young people are burdened with $1 trillion in student debt.
We're in a heap of trouble.
When the temperature of the Earth is starting to rise, that's a very bad sign. Our Earth is running fever, and it's running it because it's sick in many ways.
In a country like the United States, the fact that anywhere from 45 to 50 million people are hungry, this is a problem.
We can't go on like this. We can't keep moving toward climate catastrophe, nuclear war, persistence of inequality, poverty, famine.
There is a systems problem. These are not one-off issues. They are interconnected, and we have to look at the system as a whole.
It's time to talk about alternatives. It's time to talk about what's next.
We need to be aspirational and be clear about the vision of the world that we want.
What is the system that humanizes us? What is the system that opens up our imagination of possibilities of cooperation?
Nothing is more important right now than to discuss how can we bring about this change.
As systems fail, individual and community creativity explodes, and that's what we have seen. People in this country are solving the problems themselves. They're coming up with new models and strategies. And within those models and strategies are the kernels of a systemic way to move forward.
Land trusts, cooperatively owned businesses,
sustainable energy,
state-owned banks,
urban gardening, urban farming.
These small successes taken together are a proof of concept that this can happen on a larger scale.
We're compelled to search for alternatives, not just analytically, but in how we live and what we do, how we organize our daily lives. And that has tremendous potential.
Our actions and our imagination have to match the magnitude of this problem.
We have to get out of our comfort zone. We must think with courage.
All bets are off in terms of our previous thinking. Our ways of thinking about the economy and our ways of thinking about politics have proven an abject and utter failure. The good news is we have no choice but to adopt revolutionary thinking. I like that.
That's the exciting part about this moment. When there are no rules, then people have freedom to invent and to create new things.
I have no doubt that we can create a better America.
If the people who cared about these things really joined together to do something about them, anything is possible.
The biggest worry for me is that we don't try, is that we don't push for what we know is right, for what we know is possible.
It's time for everybody who cares about this country and the future of the planet to do something about it, to get involved.
We can actually do better. We can build a better system. It's not impossible. It's a very American thing to do, to build a new system.
It's a challenge. We can do it collectively, neighborhood by neighborhood, step by step.
I think that the world that we're on the verge of is a bright and beautiful and interesting one, complex, local, interconnected. I hope we get there.
It's time to talk about what's next. Please come and sign our statement at thenextsystem.org.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
With more and more African-American stars saying they're going to boycott the Oscars, the big question now is, will Chris Rock agree to be the host? Or could we see a change there? Hello, everybody. Getting interesting out there. It's Tuesday, January 19. How about it? Good to see you today. It is the Bill Press Show. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being with us on the radio, your local progressive talk radio station. Thanks for being with us on television, on Free Speech TV, coast to coast. We look forward to bringing you the news of the day here in our third hour together, and also to hearing from you. Your reaction to what's going on at 866-55-PRESS. Or you can send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Lots going on today. We'll keep up with it. And one way, of course, is to check out the New York Times. If you check out the New York Times op-ed page today, you'll see a good piece from our friend, op-ed writer for the New York Times, Emma Roller, a frequent guest to the program. And back in studio this morning. Emma, it's nice to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you, too.
I'm sure you're used to it by now, but congratulations on getting the New York Times. That's a big deal.
It still feels weird.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
The paper of record, the national paper.
I guess so.
Great lady. Here we go. No, a great honor. I'd love to be on the op-ed page of the New York Times. Someday, maybe. Peter Ogburn.
If I can do it, you can do it.
There you go. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson leading our team here today. Hi, guys.
Yeah, hello. Here we are.
And we might point out that we are all here despite the fact that it is cold in Washington. The freeze has finally hit here. It was 13 when I walked in this morning.
Update.
Yes.
It's now 14 degrees, but it feels like 2 degrees. So we're moving upwards. Last hour, it was just 1 degree, it felt like outside.
I'm glad it's a lot warmer than I was.
I'm ready for it. I mean, we've been missing winter this whole time.
I'm too. Yeah.
I did like seeing the snow the other day.
Yeah, there was a little snow the other day.
Yeah, that's right. Snow is on its way.
Get ready this weekend. We're going to get hammered, it looks like.
I'll get my parka out. I haven't needed it yet so far this year. Ray Rogers here. Take your calls. Remember, two-way street here. We want to hear from you at 866-55-PRESS, and not just on the radio, but on television, thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. We read the other day that Michelle Obama, she's got a frequent escape from the White House, which I've known for some time because she loves this Soul Cycle. Started in New York, but now they're here. I think they have a couple of. Have you ever been to Soul Cycle?
I have not.
They have a couple in the area.
A couple in the area. I know. There's one right down at 23rd and M, right across the street from a friend's house, and she's there. She's there often. And Jimmy Fallon last night talked about what she takes the girls too sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the whole family out. Well, not without Barack, right?
Soul Cycle doesn't seem like his thing.
No, Jimmy Fallon, what this thing is all about.
I read that Michelle Obama is a big fan of the trendy spin class Soul Cycle. Yeah, and she sneaks out of the White House to attend private classes. Yeah, that's right. She spends 45 minutes pedaling without getting anywhere. Then Barack was like, try doing that for 7 years.
Yeah. I've seen video of it. I mean, it's really pretty intense.
It's like a spin class, but yeah, it's very intense.
Yeah, good for her, too. Man, she keeps in shape. I'm Maralo here for the first half hour. We'll be joined a little bit later by Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post about the big prisoner swap with Iran. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. The Chipotle experience is over. Now, we talked about this a while back. A man by the name of Andrew Harluck said he was going to eat at Chipotle every single day, but he has called it quits after 186 days straight. He estimates that he spent $1,884.42, and he says that it's time to stop.
But is he healthy?
Mostly because he is, but he also said that he'd like to keep it that way, and that's why he's stopping with all the recent news of people getting sick at Chipotle. He said, quote, there was almost no way for the joke to top itself, end quote, at this point, because once he started down this path, he didn't imagine that it would actually turn into such a thing with the with the illnesses and the bungling of the reaction by Chipotle. So he says it's time to leave. It's time to shut it down. So no more Chipotle life for him.
Peter, I'm ready to assign you to the Chipotle beat, by the way.
I'm on that Chipotle beat, man.
He is.
I stay on it. I think it's a fascinating story. That's all. So we got to look at what, we took Amazon with their drones, right? Their delivery drones. We got to look at what that might be. According to Yahoo Tech, they got some details from Amazon. So they're calling it Prime Air, and they say that they want to get packages to customers within 30 minutes of them ordering them online via drone.
Wow.
No, it's too fast.
The range has to be over 10 miles, and the packages has to weigh less than 55 pounds each. But they'll be able to deliver packages that weigh, the drones will be 55 pounds each. They'll be able to deliver things up to 5 pounds. So if you want anything 5 pounds and under, you can order it from Amazon, and they'll send it to you with a drone under 30 minutes.
I'm curious what the FAA has to say about all this.
There's still that question, right, that has to be resolved here, because Amazon thinks they can do it.
Yeah, they're not close to getting permission for these flights yet.
Right. And some more sad news for rock music. Yesterday, we got the word that Eagles guitar player Glenn Frey passed away. He was 67 years old, and he passed away in New York City from complications arising from rheumatoid arthritis, colitis, and pneumonia. The band put out a statement yesterday afternoon saying farewell to Glenn Frey. Don Henley was the first one to sort of put one out there, a solo condolences. So farewell to Glenn Frey.
Yeah, huge star, and when the band broke up, remember, he got into acting.
Yeah,
right?
no, Glenn Frey was an interesting guy, right? I mean, no matter what
Right.
you think of the Eagles and the music, he was a talented musician. And they sort of said that he was the driving force behind getting some of their big hits.
I don't want any suggestions that there's anything wrong with the Eagles' music. It is it's like my favorite music, among my favorite music. I mean, that album is right here on my phone. I listen to it all the time. And two of the biggest hits, his Hotel California and Your Lion Eyes. I mean, I love it.
Really?
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. By the way, when I was working with Jerry Brown, we used to. I know. Here we go. Name dropping. But
is your foot okay over there?
Seriously, we used to hang out at Don Henley's house in the Hollywood Hills.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
He and Jerry became buds, and we'd stop by there. It was just kind of a.
Wait, this merits a longer story.
Yeah, right? There's got to be something else there, right,
Well,
Bill?
you're not going to get it. There was a nice whiff of smell around that house all the time.
Yeah?
Some potpourri.
Yeah, it smelled like the teacher's lounge.
I was never sure what it was, but anyhow.
Yeah.
Emma, your piece today, just saying yes to the politics of drugs. Is the war on drugs still on, and are Republicans talking about it?
Right. So that's the interesting thing. I don't think it's safe to say the war on drugs is over, even though President Obama has tried to roll back some mandatory minimums. But I think what has changed significantly, unfortunately, aside from creeping overdose rates with prescription painkillers, is as this has sort of affected more and more suburban, rural communities, we've seen Republican candidates become more and more comfortable, and Democratic candidates like Hillary Clinton, comfortable talking about addiction in more of an empathetic, public health framed way instead of a criminal justice, punitive sort of way.
I mean, Bernie and Hillary both made that point in the Sunday night debate, right? That's kind of where progressives have always been, that this is a public health problem, not a criminal problem.
Right, though I think Hillary Clinton has had to reckon a little bit with her husband's legacy with the 1994 crime bill that imposed a lot of mandatory minimums. And, under Bill Clinton's administration, I think prison populations rose 60%. So obviously times have changed and the discourse is a lot different today. But what I focused on in this piece is New Hampshire, which is obviously a very important first primary state.
And also a serious problem.
Right. So they've been hit
with heroin, right?
Right. There's been skyrocketing heroin use along with prescription painkillers, which are sort of the gateway drug to heroin use. In New Hampshire, overdose deaths linked to opiate abuse have more than doubled in the past 2 years. So just even recently, it's been going up. So, but the upside of that is that you've seen candidates opening up about their personal experiences and also talking about addiction in more of a community empathizing way instead of a scolding way. So Jeb Bush, we know his daughter struggled with prescription abuse back when he was governor. And it's something that he used to sort of chide reporters for even asking about. He didn't want to talk about it. But now on the campaign trail in New Hampshire, he's been talking about her experience with that. And I think she even joined him on the trail to talk about it.
And then Carly, of course.
Right. Carly Fiorina's stepdaughter, Lori Ann Fiorina, died at the age of 36, I think, from addiction, which is just terrible. And then Chris Christie also had that sort of viral video where he talked about his friend from law school who died of, I think, a Percocet overdose. And the way he framed it was, when my mother got lung cancer from smoking, no one said, well, it's her fault, you should have stopped smoking. No one thought about it in those terms. And yet with people who are suffering from drug addiction, we tend to blame them.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting time for this type of stuff, right? Like, as much as we sort of have fun with the topic of marijuana legalization, right, and things like that in this country, I think it really has opened the door for people just talking about drugs, right? Like, it was so taboo for so long of even just admitting that, like, you occasionally get high or like things like that. But and I'm not trying to compare marijuana use to these types of things.
Right.
But the door is open now to talk about drugs.
Well, the interesting thing is that the federal government still classifies marijuana as more dangerous and more addictive than these prescription painkillers, which were linked to 25,000 overdoses in 2014, I think.
It's crazy.
25,000?
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's insane. So does this... the fact that these Republicans are speaking about it from their own personal experience and their family experience, does it lead to a different approach to the whole war on drugs? I don't even know whether we have a drug czar anymore. I guess we do.
I don't know. Maybe somewhere out there.
But, I mean, their approach has always been the crackdown approach: lock them up, round them up, and throw them in prison, which is not the approach, or not the answer.
But more recently, like we've seen in Congress, the one area where they have been able to find some common ground now is on criminal justice reform. And again, not to think about it too cynically, but this has become a problem over jailing and addiction that has reached beyond urban communities, reached beyond minority communities, into the suburbs, into rural areas. You know, New Hampshire is a vastly white state, but now as Republican candidates are trekking through the state, they're seeing families that are personally affected by this. And actually, John Kasich had something really interesting to say. There was a forum about addiction in New Hampshire, and basically he said, "Sometimes I wonder how African Americans must have felt when drugs were awash in their community and nobody watched. Now it's in our communities, and now all of a sudden we've got forums, and God bless us, but think about the struggles that other people had." So I thought that was a refreshingly candid thing to say. And I think, honestly, that's something that has opened up candidates to talking about it more.
Well, one would hope so, right? And a whole new approach. I mean, we've certainly come a long way from the days of Ronald Reagan, right? And just say no, and if you dare say yes, then you're locked up for the rest of your life. Something, and it's good that they're opening up about what has happened in their own families. There are very few families in this country, right, that have not had somebody, right, with an addiction problem.
And that's what the mayor of, I spoke with the mayor of Manchester, New Hampshire, who's a Republican and who has seen, the havoc that this has wrought on his community. He gets to talk to a lot of Republican candidates coming through the state. And that's what he told me is with this epidemic, it's crossed every boundary. It's young to old, rich to poor, white to black. And he tells his constituents, if it hasn't affected you yet, just wait, it will.
Someday somebody's going to, maybe you, Emma, will have to do a piece about why New Hampshire. It just strikes me as odd of all the states, right, with this problem would be New Hampshire.
I'm not sure why that is.
Why not Maine?
Well, hey.
Right, or New Jersey, or
it just makes no sense.
That doesn't easily connect with New Hampshire, but it's a real problem there. Emma Rotter here from the New York Times. Again, nobody in this country that has in some way been impacted by this. Love to hear your story at 866-55-PRESS.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip, or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use, which is a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 26 minutes now after the hour. Again, we'll talk about the Iran prisoner exchange at the half hour. Emma Rollo joins us now from the New York Times. Excellent piece. Check it out, NewYorkTimes.com, NYTimes.com, on this, how Republican candidates particularly are handling the war on drugs in this campaign. Speaking of people on drugs, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, they've really been at it lately. I mean, it's boiled down to, we're all focused on Iowa, which is 13 days away now. It's all about Trump and Cruz, isn't it? I mean, it's just, that's the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, especially in Iowa, it's really interesting. So Donald Trump spoke at Liberty University yesterday.
Oh, God, yes.
The evangelical
2
school.
Corinthians.
Oh, yep. Yeah, he tried
That's
to...
the whole ball game, as he says.
As he said, yeah. Liberty College.
Did he call it Liberty College?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. But I was just reading this Washington Post story about his speech there, and they found some students who are supporting him over Cruz and Ben Carson for president.
Evangelicals.
Right, evangelicals.
Donald Trump?
Which is why I think one of the reasons why he has been performing so well in Iowa, and he and Cruz are pretty much neck and neck in Iowa still. Cruz may have pulled ahead, I'm not sure. But I think what that speaks to is sort of this pragmatism among some evangelicals of they like that Trump is saying things that people are afraid to say. That's what Jerry Falwell Jr. said about him. And they like that he could beat Hillary Clinton, which at the end of the day is what they want to happen. So I think in that way, that's led some of them toward him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that old rubric, hate the sin, love the sinner.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they don't care about his sins, right? They're just looking for somebody who might be able to win, right?
I think so, yeah.
Donald Trump. But what's also interesting, as you pointed out, is in speaking about evangelicals, a month ago we would all said, oh, that's Ben Carson's crowd.
Right.
Today, Ben who?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just goes to show how unpredictable this campaign is. You just cannot. Anyone who tells you that they know what's happening is selling you a lie, I think.
It's interesting. Bernie Sanders and Liberty and Trump have both done Liberty. I don't think Ben Carson has done that. Emma, great work. Thanks for coming on with this morning.
Thank you so much.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the area.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
You bet it is. 33 minutes after the hour on this Tuesday, January 19, a very cold day here in Washington, D.C. And reaching out to you nationwide, coast to coast, on your local Progressive Talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. Brought to you today by AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country under President Lee Saunders. They're making America happen, and you can find out how at their website, AFSCME, AFSCME.org. President Obama telling reporters in the White House on Sunday, this is a good day. Indeed, it was a good day because the president could announce not just one, but two new deals with Iran. The actual beginning of the Iran nuclear deal, which was announced about 6 months ago, took the time to get all the pieces in place, but also an extraordinary deal for the exchange of prisoners. Karun Demirjian is a defense and foreign policy reporter for the Washington Post, who's been covering this very, very important and kind of complicated story. And she joins us in our newsroom or our studio this morning. Hi, Karun. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
You had a big weekend, huh?
It was quite a big weekend when it came to things related to the Iran situation.
Yeah. Let's start with the nuclear side of it. What did Iran have to do, and what have they done to enable this deal to go forward?
Well, under the terms of the deal, there were a number of benchmarks that they had to meet and passes that they had to clear, among which was, retiring a bunch of centrifuges, transferring a whole bunch of nuclear fuel to Russia, and pouring concrete into a plutonium reactor to render it completely non-functional. So we were expecting initially that would take until the spring, but then about a month or so ago, estimates started to be ratcheted up that might actually happen in January. So they met those marks. And at that point, it was up to the IAEA to certify that they had done what they were supposed to do under the deal. And that triggers implementation day, which means that's when the sanctions start to get lifted, right, or the waivers start to be issued on our part. So that day came, and that was, this is kind of the firing gun for when the actual deal, the meat of it, actually hits the road. So now it's in place.
So what prompted them to move so fast? You think of these deals, normally people would drag their heels, right? And a lot of people were saying Iran would never live up to this deal. Why'd they move so fast?
I mean, this is a question that you've got to ask somebody with more intimate knowledge of the Iranian leaders that were in charge of this.
Yeah.
But it does raise questions, right? Because there's been this debate here about, what is Iran really after in this deal? What are they going to do with all this money once they have it? What's their game here? Mm-hmm. That's the longer game past just getting these sanctions lifted. And, it raises the question of, why did it happen so fast? Was that because of people that were the more moderates in the government or the more hardliners? I mean, the hardliners have, there's been various reports that have said that, they were trying to bust up the deal at the last minute. Yeah. So does that mean that the moderates in the government actually have, more sway than we think they do? Because that would be a better thing for us. But these are all questions that you can't answer right now. We'll see how it plays out.
Somehow they came to the conclusion that it was better for them to get it done and get moving down the road, right?
Somebody with the authority to swing things in Tehran did, yeah.
Because by triggering this deal, they get a lot of cash. correct?
They do free up a lot of their assets. I think there's about $100 billion in assets that they have around the globe. Not all of it gets freed up immediately, and I think about half of it has to go to debts automatically. But they do get a whole bunch of money that they haven't been able to get their hands on
and they're able to
in
trade
decades.
Worldwide, right?
Yeah, I mean, the big question about where they enter the global markets right now is on oil, right? Because this has been that they were supposedly, going to issue an order to start pumping out 500,000 barrels of oil a day. And the question is, do they really go ahead with that, or do they lessen it somewhat? Because right now, we've got a situation with oil in the global markets anyway. 2 years ago when they started negotiating this deal, it seemed like it was going to be much more lucrative to jump into the market that way, right? And now we've got oil less than $30 a barrel, so it's not actually going to make them as much money as they thought when they started. But certainly this is an opening of the doors for Iran, so there's more money than none when you're under sanctions.
Their ships are welcome now in any port around the world, and they're players again.
They are going to get a chance to be players again, yeah. I mean, this is not a complete carte blanche lifting of all sanctions. Remember that this is nuclear-related sanctions. There are still several entities.
I was going to ask you about that. There are sanctions, for example, for their use of missile, right? The ballistic missiles.
We applied new sanctions for that in the aftermath of this deal. Yes, that's still not okay. Terrorism, human rights-related things. There's still a lot of ways in which Iran is being restricted and financially restricted around the world because of the because of steps that they have taken in other areas that we're still not okay with and that have not been resolved.
You may not know the answer to this question, but I was surprised when I heard that they shipped this nuclear fuel out of the country. I'm sure it was part of the deal there that they could ship it to Russia. Why Russia?
Russia has been kind of a guarantor of these things. It's got a very active industry, and Russia was discussed, I believe, as an entity that could would have been when there was discussions about, you don't have to create nuclear fuel in your own backyard. We can kind of deliver it and pick up the refuse. Russia's kind of been part of those discussions in many different contexts.
Their proximity.
Because of the proximity, because of the industry that they have in their own country. And also, I mean, as much as we've got tension with Russia right now on many different fronts, they were a big part of this deal as well. It was the United States, France, UK, Germany, EU, Russia, and China, and Iran. So you have everybody kind of pitching in to do a different role. And so that was supposed to be Russia's part of the deal.
Now, parallel to all these negotiations on the nuclear deal were negotiations about a prisoner exchange, which most of us did not know anything about until it happened. Did you know about it at the Washington Post and choose not to report it?
Well, I personally was not privy to information about this. The Washington Post was doing quite a bit of, work with the United States government and trying to keep Jason Rezaian's profile up and people quite aware of how long he'd been in detention. It was a year and a half. I mean, we were talking about we're in 2016 right now. Sorry, July of 2 years ago that he was actually
18 months.
Very long time. So there was quite a lot of work being done to try to make sure that his case wasn't forgotten on the sidelines of all of the things that were happening with Iran. And it was raised. I mean, several members, the president talked about it, members of Congress talked about it. It was and officials have said that this was a discussion that they had every time that they sat down with Iranian officials. Perhaps not, I don't think that they wanted to tie anything to the deal because of questions about leveraging, but certainly on the sidelines of, or as an additional question in every discussion, what's going on with these detainees. So I don't think the officials have also been very insistent that this was not, planned this way, that this is just, coincidence that it happened this way, but that it was, there is obvious benefits and perks to having them both come out at the same time.
You would think. I mean, the talks on one side, the fact that the talks were going on the nuclear thing made it easier for talks to be going on the prisoner release, right? At least reestablished relationships. And
there were discussions happening. I don't think that one was, kind of a condition of the other, but certainly there's a lot of, I don't think anybody's, the timing of it all coming out at once, I think people were saying, okay.
But, I mean, huge good news for the Washington Post family, right? For Jason to be released. He's with his wife and mother, and they're still at Landstuhl Air Force Base, but heading back to the United States.
Right, and I mean, there was tension about that right up until the last minute. We wrote a story about the, whether his mother and his wife were going to be on that plane coming out.
Oh,
or
I know,
what
that
was
story
happen.
was
So
gripping. I mean,
it's like a bad movie.
Right.
But,
it reminded me of Argo in a sense, but
Yeah,
he was on the plane.
exactly.
They were on the plane. They had the Swiss ambassador's plane
Yep.
ready to take them out. And Jason's wife and mother were being held at the same airport under arrest or detention somewhere.
Well, they
And
didn't have cell phones too, so
and
no
they
one
didn't
knew where
have.
it was.
They had taken their cell phones
yeah.
away. They couldn't communicate, and he refused to leave without them.
That was always, I mean, the report said that was always
I
supposed to be the
understand why.
understanding behind
Sure.
the deal,
You're
right?
not going to leave your wife and mother behind in the country, right?
Right. No, but it
But-
certainly was very, very dramatic, and everybody. I think that people are still waiting for everything to get home and everything to be fully resolved. But I think there's a lot of relief right now that this much has been done and that we've come. And he's been released because it was a very long detention, as we've said. And I think that was, you saw, it wasn't just the Washington Post. I mean, I think the whole press community in the States and beyond really rallied behind that.
Absolutely. And there were several, and it's been reported. Huffington Post was another one that knew about the negotiations and just decided we're not going to queer the deal. We're just not going to report it until it happens. And I mentioned yesterday morning that at the last year's White House Correspondents' Dinner, of course, we were all wearing Free Jason buttons, right?
Yeah.
This year we'll be wearing Welcome Home.
We'll see how quickly they can mass produce those.
Oh no, don't worry. don't worry. Overnight, and we hope that he's there, and I bet that he will be there. Here with Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post on this extraordinary deal and great good news. Good news, it seems, for everybody but Republican candidates for president about the release of 5 American prisoners. A question or a comment, here's a person to ask, 866-55-PRESS, and we'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. And like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 13 minutes before the top of the hour this Tuesday, January 19, wrapping up with our conversation here about learning a lot more about the Iran nuclear deal and the Iran prisoner exchange deal with Karun Demirjian from the Washington Post, defense and foreign policy reporter. So as I mentioned just before the break, I mean, this is great news. 5 Americans coming home. You know, Iran prevented from getting building a nuclear weapon for at least 15, maybe 20 years. You would think everybody could celebrate this, particularly the prisoner exchange. Not everybody is happy with it. Here is Chris Christie yesterday, Karun.
Every American that's abroad is now in more danger today than they were before, because they know that they have a president in the Oval Office and a Secretary of State who is willing to pay ransom for hostages.
How about they know they have a president and a Secretary of State who are willing to fight to bring our hostages home, right?
There's, I don't think that, like you said, there's been a few Republican candidates that have been not terribly happy about, or using the opportunity, I guess, to throw a pot shot or two about this.
It's hard to find reasons for opposing this deal.
Well, I mean, the president was repeated in his comments over the weekend that, they made a point of not releasing anybody that was being held here based on anything that was, a violent crime or a terrorism charge or anything like that. So,
tell us about these 7. We haven't heard much about them.
I don't actually think that we've reported that many details about the 7.
These are like
that's
financial, right? I mean, aren't they violating the money?
I mean, I don't want to get into it because I'm not intimately familiar with what the 7 have been doing, but
they weren't terrorists.
They weren't terrorists. They were not violent criminals. It was more lesser charges than that sort of a thing. So, and like you said, that there were a total of 7 in exchange for and on our side there was the 5, right? I think one of the 5 from our side decided to stay in Iran afterwards, but the rest came out on various flights home. Right. So, and we didn't know that much about 2 of the 5. It hadn't been widely reported that their cases were even out there. I'm sure some people must have known in their communities, but that was a revelation to many people that the student and the Iranian American, I believe, were in addition to the 3 that we did know about.
Right. And a lot of questions about the one who decided to stay in Iran. I mean,
I'm curious about that too. And then, of course, on the side, we should also remember that there's one other, the Levinson, whose case is not resolved yet, right? So he's
not resolved. They can't find him, right?
The Iranians say that they don't have him. I mean, they've been saying that it's been 8 years that he's been missing or something. So I guess part of this now is that they're going to work together more closely to identify where he is or what happened to him. But he disappeared from Iran, so I mean, the assumption in this side has been that someone has to have him, but they've never said, yes, we do, and they've been very open about saying, yes, we have the others. So big question marks still on that one. But yes, Republicans raising questions about how this deal was done, throwing words like ransom around is difficult, and saying it's an incentive for other regimes to take hostages is that, it wasn't that great for Iran to have the hostages in this place. I mean, in this case, it didn't look that good for the country. So hopefully that's not the case. But certainly the accusations being thrown around.
In your reporting and just what does your gut tells you, does this lead to the normalization with Iran? Is this going to be like, the next Vietnam?
I think everybody hopes eventually it'll get there, but I don't think that we know that yet. I mean, this is, like I said, we were talking about one category of sanctions that got removed and one deal involving prisoners. There are still many, many, many points of contention between these 2 countries, extremely so when we talk about human rights abuses and when we talk about terrorism. And these ballistic missile tests, I mean, we say we are taking away sanctions in one area, but putting them on another because Iran broke the international rules of the game on that front. So this is not like everything's hunky-dory. We're going to just all sing Kumbaya at this point. I think everybody hopes that eventually we move towards that in the coming years based on this being a good grounding. But
and you report on this all the time. Given the lay of the land in the Middle East, I mean, were we to establish somewhat normal relations with Iran, that could have a huge impact, right, on the region.
It's already having a huge impact. I mean, it's
in terms of
we
Syria,
didn't even get
Iraq,
into all that
and
stuff,
everything.
right? But I mean, we've got real concern among Saudi Arabia and other Sunni Arab states that have been our traditional only allies for several years running in the Middle East, that if we cozy up too much to Tehran, that is going to upset their base of authority and in the region. Saudi Arabia, Iran, huge rivals. I mean, they have proxy allies that fight these really bloody battles in other parts of the Middle East. So there's it's an overused, antiquated phrase, but there's balance of power issues here that are serious issues, and have been, and even before this deal was even, a figment of anybody's imagination. And now that it's been going on, it certainly has been affecting the tensions. And you've seen in the last few weeks, even as we've gotten closer and closer to this, and I'm not saying that one is directly related to the other, but Riyadh and Tehran are having a real diplomatic standoff at this point. I mean, they've cut relations. They are having protests in each other. I mean, it's not clean.
No, it's all related, and it is so important and so good to get the insights and the background from you today. Thanks so much for coming in, Karun.
Thank you.
We'll look for you in the Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com. I'll be back next with a parting shot.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 ML, or visit their website.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, we know Donald Trump can fake just about anything. He can fake being a businessman, being a politician, being a candidate even. One thing he can fake, being a devout Christian or a preacher. He proved that yesterday with his embarrassing appearance at Liberty University. Of course, pretending to know Christianity has gotten Trump into trouble before, like last August, where after citing the Bible as his favorite book, he couldn't remember one single verse or passage from Scripture. No surprise then yesterday when in front of 13,000 divinity students, he quoted a verse from what he called 2 Corinthians, when anybody who knows anything about the Bible knows it's not 2 Corinthians, but 2 Corinthians. I think in the future, Donald Trump should leave evangelicals to Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee, or Ben Carson. Donald Trump would be better off hanging out with sinners like himself. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Have a great Tuesday. Come back and see us tomorrow. Did you know?
This is The Bill Press Show.